Hi. Okay, so you have some projects you're working on and you're looking for resources online. And of course, here's an example. I'm looking for making a poster or publication with regard to this particular topic. And I found an image that I want to use, but unfortunately, it's only 800 by 600 pixels. So I might look around for a better one that's similar or a different alternative. But let's work on a couple things you can do to improve or use this at a higher risk. First off, let's see why you don't want to use it as you find it. So here I've got a file, an InDesign file open that is 11 by 17 inches and has that little 1/8 inch bleed. And I'm going to go ahead and place that 800 by 600 pixel image that I just found. And you can see already in the links palette, remember the links palette has this little pop-up area at the bottom, and there you can see the effective PPI of that image as placed is 144, which is well lower than 300. We're going to shoot for 300 or more. It's manageable to have something higher than 144, but let's say 144 is definitely way too low. And when we zoom in on the final, we'll see those pixels in many cases. So even worse, if I wanted to make this a full screen image, if I were to blow this up, I'm sorry, full poster, also applies to screens, but here we're basically talking about a printing resolution. So here I'm going to scale this up. And let's say I'm going to try to fill up the poster, and you can see it's only 36 pixels an inch at that size. So let's figure out a better way. So going back to Photoshop, I'm going to open that same exact document. Hopefully my parrot will go away. A parrot? Come on. I can't get to show up. There it is. So we can see that the image size is 800 by 600 pixels. So we want to increase that to some other scale. Let's say, I don't know, 17, 18 inches, 20 inches, because we might want to make it even bigger by, now that's 15, so that's fine. 300 pixels an inch. Now, of course, it's going to be kind of blurry. It's going to get kind of crunchy, but you can see at least that blur is smooth. There's what we had. There's what we're going to get. So that's a clue. Click OK. You don't want to mistake this for actually being the solution to the problem in most cases. Sometimes it works, but that's just too choppy and blurry. So let's find some way to make that look less like a glitch. And one of those ways is to use what's called a halftone pattern. So under image mode, you'll see we want to go to bitmap mode. We can't because it's grayed out. So first you need to go to grayscale. Discard the color, yes. So now we have a grayscale file. Now under mode, bitmap shows up. At this point, you have a chance to type in some higher number, some higher resolution in case you hadn't done that already with image size. But because we already did, I'm going to leave it at 300 pixels an inch. And in this pop-up menu, I'll choose halftone screen. There's other choices, but halftone screen is the one I want. Click OK. Oops. Let me do that again. And the next screen, you have some choices, and that really was with regard to the size of the halftone pattern. So I want to make the pattern relatively smallish. So I'll say something like, oh, how about 20 per inch? What kind of pattern do I want? Round is the most typical one. Let's look at that. So does it look pixelated? Not exactly. There is this pattern that represents the printing of it. That's called lines per inch. That's the halftone dot. And then each halftone dot is made up of what, 10, 20 pixels across? And that's where your pixels per inch are spent. Let's undo that. We have to undo that to get the grayscale information back. Let's enter bitmap mode again with different settings here, like an even finer dot pattern. And you can see that it adds some visual interest, especially if I undo and make that dot pattern larger. Now this isn't for everybody, but I want you to experiment a little bit with playing with different kinds of patterns. Here's some big dots. Interestingly, you can still see largely the illusion there. Let's not get too outrageous. The one I want you to check out also is called line. So we'll choose line instead. Maybe something like 20. Watch what this does. Boom. With different thicknesses, it creates what's called a bitmap mode image. Notice a bitmap mode image has got no gray in it. It's only black and white pixels. Save that image. And I'll save it as 300 pixels per inch. Now that could be a TIFF. And that way, if you save it as a TIFF, as you remember from the first #1 video here, if I place that, here I'll just relink that particular image. Look what I've got. I've got that placed. Its effective PPI is now 268.